Hello and welcome to a very special episode of World Traveler Cooking. Today we have reached 600 subscribers, and so we're going to do a special dish for you today. It'll be pasta alla Gricia. This is a very simple dish with very few ingredients. We have, well, obviously our pasta. I'm using a de spaghetti. You can also use rigatoni or bucatini. Those are also common pastas, but try to stick with a typical Roman pasta. We have guanciale, and we have Pecorino Romano cheese, and of course we have black pepper. That's all that's going into this dish, along with water, and we'll have salt in the pasta water, of course. But that's it. So let's go ahead and get started. So with guanciale in a dish like this, it's important to cut the skin off. So we will do that first. The skin is very tough. And if you're doing like an amatriciana, I like to add the skin back in when, for example, you are adding the wine and stuff. But on this dish, we're not adding wine, etc. So I'm going to cut the skin off, and then I'll be back to show you the cutting. So cutting this guanciale, basically we're going to cut it into strips, and we'll take these strips and we'll cut them into little sort of matchsticks. Kind of like lardon. Although Italians probably would not like me using French words to describe their cooking technique. So I'm going to do that to this whole piece here, and when I'm done, I will be back. So here we have this entire guanciale reduced to these pieces here. Next, our water's boiling, so we'll get that taken care of. Then we'll get our cheese grated. So we will salt our water and add our pasta. Might need a little more water there, but I think we should be good. Now, I'm not using a massive amount of water here just because I don't have a massive amount of pasta. But you could use more water than this. This is probably on the lower side of how much water you should have. So maybe once that all goes in, I will add a little more water. So woks are becoming more common in Italian cooking. I'm going to use one here. Into the wok goes the guanciale, and we will cook it under a reasonably low heat just to render all the fat and bring out various, basically start to crisp it up a bit. I'll be back as that progresses. So this guanciale has rendered a bit. It's starting to brown up a little bit. It's pretty much close to where we want it. I'm just going to let it go for another minute or so. I'm going to check my pasta. So I think my pasta is just about done. It's just more or less lost its crunch. It's still extremely chewy, and that's good. So I'm going to take this off the heat, and I'm going to scoop this guanciale out. And we'll add our pasta in here. Very important that we do this next step off the heat. So the next step was I put the pasta out of the water with tongs, and I put it in here. Next, I'm going to take my cheese, and I'm going to mix it with a little bit of pasta water so that I can break down the cheese a bit. And I'm going to do this with the heat off. And so if you could see this, wait. So what you can see is that this is definitely not quite melting, but I'm breaking down the cheese a bit. And the goal is basically to end up, instead of like grated pieces of cheese, to have kind of a slurry. And then I'm going to add this slurry to my pasta. So, slurry goes into the pasta. And I'm just going to toss this up quickly. Again, we do not want to add heat at this point, because if we melt the cheese, there is no going back. And so, vigorously stir, and it looks like my cheese is melted. So, I may actually have to regrate more cheese. Maybe, maybe not. Adding a little more pasta water. And just massively, rapidly stir. We want to create a nice emulsion, and this will happen as the pasta continues to cool down a bit as it cooks in this. But do not add heat at this point. If you do, you will definitely melt the cheese, and it looks like my cheese melted anyway. So I may have to go and melt some more cheese and try this part again. But I'm just going to stir it a moment more. So I'm sure it will have cooled down a little bit, so hopefully it melts this time. So I just take in some more cheese, and I'm just going to stir it in rather quickly and vigorously. Again, it's really important to keep this process vigorous, and the pieces of cheese that have melted we will eventually end up effectively discarding. But we can now see that we're actually starting to get a bit of a sauce here, and that's what we want. So now we're just going to keep stirring this until the sauce reaches the desired thickness, and it will do this as the pasta absorbs water from the sauce, and as more starch from the pasta ends up in here. So, as you can see, there are effectively melted pieces of cheese. Those are now useless to us. But the sauce is starting to look nicer. So just a little bit longer and I think we'll be ready. So for just a taste, I'm just going to put a little bit on a plate with a little bit of guanciale on top, and I'll top it with some black pepper. Go ahead and taste it. And now for the taste test. Just grab everything all at once. That is fantastic. That is simple, elegant, flavorful, everything you could want for it. Quite delicious. Now, if you like this content, you'd like to see more of it, please like, share, and subscribe. If you make a dish like this, I'd love to hear your comments, or even if you don't, if you have something to say, love to hear from you. At any rate, recipes in the description. Bon appetit, and see you next week.